So, on today's episode with Brandon, we talk about quitting your job to start a new company, how to scale up to larger projects, growing your personal brand, how to start your own construction company, and a morning routine that sets you up for success. And we cover a lot more. This is a great episode. Make sure you listen right till the end. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Constructive Conversations, the podcast where we explore the mindset and actionable strategies that empower entrepreneurs to achieve success in all areas of life, while inspiring listeners to confidently pursue their own ambitious dreams. The reason I do this podcast is because 10 years ago, I knew I wanted to start a business, but I had no idea where to start, I didn't have the confidence, and I didn't have role models to follow. The goal is to provide that inspiration for new entrepreneurs and to provide fuel for those who are already doing it. Joining us today is Brandon Smith, CEO, co-founder of New Vision Projects, a home renovation, builder, land developer company based in Vancouver. Thanks so much for joining today, Brandon.
Nick, thanks for having me, my man.
Great.
Happy to
Great
be
to
here.
see you. I'm excited to speak with you.
Yeah, awesome. We had a bit of a time not too long ago up in beautiful Kelowna. We got to spend some time together, and hopefully all has been well since then.
Yeah, things have been good since then, and but I've been looking forward to this conversation definitely because we're in similar industries, or the same industry. So, can you tell us more about New Vision Projects, your company? What does the company look like? What do they do today?
Yeah, totally. So we're a company, a core staff of about 12 of us now, and we started out about 15 years ago. We got into sort of a longer story, but maybe we can get into it if you'd like. We started out primarily focusing on renovations and really taking on any sort of projects that we could, any sort of projects that people were going to pay us to do at that point. This is very early stages of the company. Currently, we are still doing renovations. The market still asks us to do that, but primarily focused on custom homes. About a couple of years ago, we acquired a small commercial management firm that we had done some work with, and we are building out the commercial side and commercial arm of our company, which is really, really exciting. And about 7 years ago, my business partner, other co-founder, he's moved up to the Okanagan region, which is about 4.5-5 hours away from Vancouver. And we had some opportunity to take on doing some land development of our own, and always wanting to get into development projects. We had some opportunity that made sense, and he kind of wanted to get out of the city anyways, and so he's been up there overseeing that arm of the company as well. So that gives you a bit of a snapshot of what things look like today at New Vision Projects.
Yeah, like you got a lot going on. So let's take it back to the beginning. So founding the company, what did that look like?
Well, yeah, when I was younger, I was always fairly, I had at the time entrepreneurial tendencies and habits that I just didn't really know what they meant, and it was all the early stuff that a lot of people they end up talking about, selling lemonade and little newspaper routes and stuff like that. My sister and I have a photo somewhere. I meant to bring it and maybe share it on this, but picture of us. We used to collect rocks and sell those at the end of the driveway, and so we'd had to have different tiers. We'd go around and we'd pick up little rocks, and some we would sell for 25 cents. The bigger, shinier looking rocks we'd sell for $1, and if we found like a real nice one, maybe we'd get $1.50 or $2. And realistically, we would make a bit of cash, and people would pay us because it was two 6 and 7 year old kids on the side of the road, and people seem to want to support that. So that was a lot of fun. In my first real job that I was hired on for was at McDonald's. I went around at the age of 14 and had applied at a number of different places. McDonald's hired me on, and I was really excited. Earlier, growing up in sort of early stages of high school, grade 8, grade 9, I was told, and this kind of continued throughout my time in high school as well, that I had, ADD was a big buzzword, but I was told essentially you have a learning disability, and was given some pills and was asked to take that, and was given some extra time in school to continue on with my studies, and extra support from the counselors. But it was at a young age that I was diagnosed or told anyways that had this learning disability. So I always had that sort of a dark cloud over top of my mind when and it cost me a lot of confidence in my early years. But I ended up nonetheless getting hired on at McDonald's before I turned 15. And here in BC, you have to be 15 in order to be hired on. And so I had a few weeks before my birthday, and the day after my birthday, I started at McDonald's, started my first shift. I was let go after my third week. I didn't make it past my probational period, which was a little frustrating. My mom was really excited for me when I got a job, and she saw this burst of energy, and I came home and I was excited. And then I had to go home and tell her that I had been fired from McDonald's, which is a pretty difficult thing to do. I have actually one of my best friends in the world. He has a very similar story about being fired from McDonald's, and we jam out on that sometimes. But that was had to go home, and that just kind of continued. You get really down on yourself and start thinking, shoot, I have this disability. Clearly I'm not smart. There's something wrong with me. I continued on either way and had a very long-lasting career of about 18 months of working at Little Caesars Pizza, where I made my first real career making pizzas and pizza bread, and took on some deliveries. But at that time, it was pretty funny. I had a $500. I bought my first car from my neighbors down the street for $500. And it was an 81 Oldsmobile Cutlass, and it was pretty gangster, pretty covered in rust. But it was my car, and it only cost me $500. So it was my first set of wheels, but not great on gas. And even at that point, gas was expensive. You're at the point where you're putting in $5 worth of gas and cruising around. And at Little Caesars Pizza, I was paid $3.25 per delivery plus tip. And so it was a little difficult because that was really all you're making. And on a Tuesday night when you're on call and you get 3 orders for deliveries, that was it. It was barely enough to fill the tank. And anyways, I did that, and I was happy to have a job and a manager that saw a little bit in me. Fast forward, after I graduated high school at 17. Well, throughout high school, I was a few stages as well. I decided that school wasn't for me, and I was going to snowboard professionally, and I spent more time up on the mountain than I did in school. And that I went down a path where I thought that was going to be for me. I didn't go all in. I saw, later on my friends that were continuing to snowboard professionally, and there was 5 or 6 of them sleeping on couches and sharing the same house, and it looked like a lot of fun at that point. But I always wanted to do more. However, I did have a lot of friends that were sponsored, and so I would get some free snowboard gear and set up pop-up stands outside the school cafeteria and sell used snowboards and bindings and keychains and stickers and that type of stuff, and that kind of created a buzz, and I really, really enjoyed that. But after high school at 17, my mom's house burnt down. She had a fire in her house, and she was forced to move out temporarily, and she was renting a house, and the owner of that house was a recruiter for what at the time was one of the largest construction companies in Canada. Mm-hmm. So he was looking for young men, young apprentices, or people that were interested in working construction. So he approached me as I was helping my mom move in and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about a career in construction?" And at the time, I had thought about it here and there, but not in great detail. Anyways, he had hired me on as a laborer, construction laborer, and my first job was downtown, showing up. I think my first day I showed up in a pair of cowboy boots, and that was what I was I had no idea what to wear. I wasn't really given a lot of direction, but I pushed a broom around for a few months, showed up every day, and from there I graduated to pushing a squeegee along the concrete just to keep some of the water off the concrete slab. And after my about my 4th month there, they had asked if I was interested in starting a carpentry apprenticeship with them, and I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but they explained it to me, and I said absolutely in a heartbeat. And I went home and I told my mom, and again she was she was super proud. I think she almost broke down and cried because finally I had a bit of a path. So I did that, and I continued to work with that company. I went through my carpentry apprenticeship, did really, really well. I moved up within the company fairly quickly. They started giving me more and more responsibility, and I fell in love with construction, and that was how I ended up on the path of construction in the first place. Went on to doing some surveying with the company. One time when we were building the convention center downtown, there's 900 people on site. It was a big push before the Olympics to get that thing built. And I was the head first aid guy, and we had lots of weird responsibilities and worked with a number of different crews on that project. And at that point in 2010, when the Olympics came to Vancouver, construction basically shut down in the city for a few weeks. And everybody was laid off, and spent that 3 weeks enjoying the Olympics and the festivities, and spent some time up in Whistler and the mountains and checking that out. It was a real buzz in the city, and it came time to go back to work afterwards. And I had called my boss and said I wasn't going to come back, and that was the launch pad that I used to start the company. And it was, at the time, had a number of little side projects that I was taking on on the weekends and evenings, and that was what I used. I just said, you know what, I have enough that I can take and run with, and started doing whatever I could to make some money. At the time, I had 2 mortgages. I had bought my first house at the age of 22, and my second is a rental property the year after at the age of 23. And then I left my secure job to start this company, not really realizing the extent of the mortgage payments that had to be made, but I was confident enough that I was going to make it work. So I started working on my own for about 6 months, and a really good friend of mine, my now current business partner, he had started a company with his brother-in-law a couple of years prior. He's a couple of years older than I am, and things weren't working out. We had always talked about going into business together at some point, but there was never an opportunity there that made sense. And at that point, he had reached out and said, hey, if I was to shut things down with my brother-in-law, would you still consider going into business? And I said, yeah, absolutely, in a heartbeat. And we did. And almost 15 years later, we're still business partners, and we are well into our career in construction.
Awesome. I like that's a cool story that the Olympics was sort of the springboard and the opportunity that opened up to say, yeah, I'm not coming back to work. Let's start the company. So what's been one of the biggest challenges to overcome, for going there from quitting your job and saying I'm going to do these side projects, and then joining up with your business partner until now where, you're running this big company, multiple divisions?
Yeah, I mean, scaling up, right? We're in a business where unless you've done it and it's on your resume, then you're not going to often get hired. Because of the projects that we take on, I mean, anybody, the renovations are anywhere from $500,000 plus. Custom homes that we're building are, $1.5 million, $2 million on average. The commercial projects that we take on, they scale anywhere between $500,000 and $2 million too. And one of the biggest challenges that we had when we were getting into building homes, moving from renovations into building homes, was, although we technically had the skill set to do that, finding a customer that had confidence in us to build that house when we hadn't yet built one was a challenge and a barrier for us. So it was that slow organic growth, and as you scale up to new levels, there's obviously new barriers that you have to overcome, new challenges, new staff, new skills, new, whether it's CRM systems, technology that you have to learn, because it's you're somewhere that you've never been before, and you plan it out as best you can. But the reality is, you end up somewhere, and that landscape often looks a lot different than what you thought it was going to look like. So you are put in a position where you have to be resourceful and learn a lot as you go, and learn a lot on the fly. That's certainly been a huge challenge for us, but and I'm aware of that, and it'll continue to be a big challenge as we reach new and higher levels with the company as we intend to grow.
And during those phases of growth, did you have mentors? Did you have, coaches? And do you have mentors now who help you to navigate, taking on those things that you've never done before?
Yeah, absolutely. When in the early stages, we were naive to think that we knew what we knew, but we didn't know what we didn't know. And it wasn't until we hired on our first coach that we were able to really move our company forward. And I had met a friend of, or he wasn't even a friend at the time, but I met a gentleman I was, looking for really any sort of help. And I had joined a 3-day mastermind group, and I met a guy there that was working for this company at the time. And I really connected with him, and I never ended up doing any coaching work with the company or the organization that was actually hosting the mastermind. But when I found out that this guy was leaving, I connected with him on Facebook, and he had reached out, and he said, I just asked him what he was doing, and he said, hey, he had just lost his mom, and he said, I'm heading out of town to see some family for a few weeks, but when I get back, make sure you pick up your phone. And he called me, and I went out to his house we made breakfast, and he said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I want to start working with you. You have something here, and I can coach you to really grow this. And that was a big step for us, hiring somebody on for coaching at that time. And this was a couple of years into our business, and we worked with him, and the owner of that company is who I'm referring to is still a really good friend to this day. And we hired them on and worked with them for a number of years. Throughout the years, I've had a number of different mentors, including the coach I'm working with now, which is where you and I sort of connected. But yeah, it definitely took a lot of people that had a lot more knowledge than we do to really move things forward in the direction that we wanted to.
Yeah, and that's so interesting that I find that that's a common theme. Yeah, among businesses that have done well is that they had coaches. Yeah, so that's really
absolutely. And personal development and business development. I mean, your network is your net worth, and the people that you surround yourselves with, like, you need to find people that have either done what you've done at the level that you are hoping to achieve, whatever it is that you're looking to do. But I really encourage people, anybody that's especially going to be starting out in business, to find a mentor, to find a coach. If you can't afford a coach, then find somebody that you can. And if you're lucky enough to find the right person, make sure that you take what they say and you implement that very quickly. But I give a huge amount of credit to where we are today through the coaching that we've been lucky enough to have, and the people that we've been lucky enough to guide us along that path.
And flip side of my previous question, what's one of the greatest successes you've had in your company among the years? Maybe even an unexpected success. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that we've been really lucky we've certainly over the years, we've won a number of awards for the work that we've done, the work that the team has completed. And I think that that's pretty cool, but that is nowhere nearly as exciting as the team that I feel that we have attracted to come and work with us. And I can't say enough great things about the people that are here with us in the organization, making the wheels turn. So that's one of our biggest successes for sure. And yeah, I don't know that I have another success that would really be able to top that, to be honest. I wake up every day, and I'm grateful very much for the work that we get to do. Very grateful for the people that pay us money to build their homes and take trust in working with us, and very grateful for the people that show up to work every day with us and help us work towards our goals.
Amazing. I love that. And what is sort of the vision for your company? Like next 5 to 10 years, what are your goals moving forward?
Yeah, so I have this a great question. I have this overarching vision that had come to mind a number of years ago, and it was the phrase is a million roofs over a million heads. Now I know that we're not going to build a million single family homes for a million different families. I know that when it comes to building multifamily, like that's not even enough. But through different verticals, through yes, building ourselves, but coaching, mentoring, foundations that we support, apprenticeships that we put people through training and scholarships that we provide to schools, the overall arching reach that we will have will contribute to putting a million roofs over a million heads. The next 5 years, that's a lifetime ambition and a lifetime goal in the career of construction. Over the next 5 years, we intend to expand, focus more on development of in the Vancouver area as well as the Okanagan where we are, and into the Saskatoon market. Actually, is somewhere that I really like to take the company, because I really like the landscape over there. And so the next 4 or 5 years are really going to be about how we integrate deep into our market and then expand into another geographical territory.
Amazing. Those are great goals. And what's the biggest challenge or the biggest puzzle to solve on the way to reaching those goals and that expansion?
You know, it's a series of so many puzzles that come up, and the biggest challenge is going to be communication with our team and our departments as new departments are formed and we hire on new members. I tell our team all the time that right now, communication within our organization is the best that it's going to ever be. All of you have access to myself and access to one another by way of a quick phone call, but as we grow, needing to scale that in a thoughtful way is going to be certainly a challenge, and I'm aware of that. That's the biggest challenge that I identify.
Definitely. No, that makes a lot of sense. What advice do you have for someone starting off in this industry? Maybe it's, in someone in the position you were in back in the day. They're ready to quit their job. They have some side work lined up. They're itching to take it on themselves and go out on their own. What advice do you have for people who are wanting to get started?
My advice is understand that it's going to take longer than you think it's going to take. My advice would be to get really good at your craft, and my other advice would be to market the heck out of yourself and get people to know who you are as quick as possible. We're in a world right now, and you hear guys like Gary Vaynerchuk. He says it all the time in a different way, but we're in an interesting part of the world right now, or an interesting, very small blip in time, where we have 7 to 10 fairly major platforms of attention, and for the most part, it's free. It used to be that back in the day, it was, you're spending a lot of money on newspaper ads, magazines, Madison Avenue, like these, you're paying a lot of money to get your name out there in a big way. Now there's an opportunity to gather as much attention on your company and grow that awareness for free in a way that we've never seen it. And over the next 5-6 years, maybe less, maybe a bit more, but at some point, that's probably not going to be the case, right? As soon as some of these platforms start advertising it. And if you're starting out a business right now, that would undoubtedly be the area that I would say to focus a lot of attention, because as we scale and as you get into your 4th and 5th year and you want to grow, advertising is probably going to become more and more expensive, and you're going to wish that you drew in as much awareness into your business as possible right now.
Right. So what you're describing is sort of build your own audience so that you don't have to in the future pay to have attention from somebody else's audience, because you have no control over how much that might cost or what the barriers are to access other audiences. So build your own. And that goes into my next question. Does this tie into personal branding, or is this just on the business side? What are your thoughts on that?
Both are important. The personal branding, I mean, I spent way more time on the focused on the company, but the reality is there's a lot of, with so much out on social media right now, people have a very difficult time filtering through, myself included. When I go through and I'm scrolling through Instagram, there's so many ads that come up for different, whether it's coaching services or whether it's AI products or whether it's you name it. But it's hard to cut through the noise and figure out what is best. But on the personal branding side, I think that people will always connect with people, and there will always be trust from a human to human experience. So I think that the personal branding is going to be is huge. There's no doubt about it. Company brand as well, because it may not be just you that's representing your brand. Maybe that is the direction that you want to go, but it'll vary from company to company, and it'll vary from whatever your goals are as a business owner and as an organization. To answer your question, both are important. What I've recently understood and been guys like I mentioned that I listen to on other podcasts have been screaming personal brand for 6-7 years that I've been paying attention, and I've sat and really not done a whole heck of a lot about it, and I'm realizing now how important that is.
Absolutely, yeah, and I definitely agree that you want to build that own audience, and you want people to know you, to trust you, to like you, and then that can you can point that attention to whatever business is going on at the time.
If you are thinking about starting a business, if you are at the point where you're working a 9-to-5 job, or you are just working whatever position that you may be in, and you are considering going and starting something on your own, before you do that, I highly recommend going and working for somebody that get as close to them as you possibly can, learn as much as you can about the business, work for free on the side to pick up whatever extra roles that you can to gather that knowledge, and make sure that you secure a good group of mentors that is going to help guide you along that way before you start the business. Learn sales, learn leadership. If you can learn sales and you can learn people, you're going to have a heck of a better time in business than if you can't understand people and you can't understand sales.
That's great advice. Absolutely. Yeah, people are such an important aspect of the business, and like they say, nothing happens until somebody sells something. So you can't avoid. There's no way around it.
That's it. Absolutely right. Nothing happens until a sale is made. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so you talked about your mentors, different coaches, like podcasts that you follow. To what extent, is mindset and developing your own mindset important to you in business and running business?
It's everything, for sure. It really is. And we have, as humans, we have paths that have been carved into our way of thinking, and we come up with all of these obstacles and excuses that are in our way, and these barriers that we put up that really only we put up. The human mind is expansive, and it is infinite. You can choose to think in so many different directions. Like if you wanted to think about anything or dream about anything, you can do that. But through our past experiences, our environment, what we know, who we know, those thoughts and those goals, that imagination becomes limited because we have these barriers in front of us that we ourselves have put there. If you're thinking about something in one way, you keep coming to the same conclusion. Oh, this isn't going to work, or hey, I'm going to put this off until tomorrow. You have the capacity to think and do that right now and say, I'm going to take action right now. I'm going to move forward with this right now. You can think whatever you want to think, and your mind can direct you in whichever direction you want to go. But we have these little neural pathways that have been carved in our mind, and that really, really puts a lot of direction in the way that our thoughts are headed. Mindset is massive. And as you go through business, if you aren't consistently working on yourself and consistently working on your mindset, you're going to come up against challenges every day that you are going to have to face, and you're not going to know how to face them. And that will be the difference between deciding to move forward and moving forward calmly and being able to think strategically versus being wildly overreactive. And I know that, think about the challenges that you were facing 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. If those same challenges come up right now, they seem like nothing because you've been there, you have the experience, and you're not going to dwell on them. You're going to know what to do, and you're going to move forward. But moving forward with the idea that you don't yet know what you don't know, you need to have a framework and a baseline, some sort of mental capacity that is going to allow you to make decisions once those objectives or those challenges come your way. And the coach I'm working with right now, he makes a really great point, and he says it all the time, and I think about it a lot. The people that are working for you, all of their dreams and all of their visions need to fit inside the vision that you can build and you can provide for them. So if you don't have a vision and a mindset that's big enough to fit all of your staffs and your employees and your customers' hopes and dreams within that, then you're not thinking big enough.
Absolutely. I like what you said there. Like you need to expand your mind, your vision to encompass, your entire team, the entire company, their hopes and dreams.
And that doesn't come without repetition.
And do you have particular practices like this, sort of like expand your mind, like like meditation? Is there faith, spirituality? Is that part of your life and part of your business?
Spirituality is a huge part of my life. I don't meditate as I've certainly tried over the years, implementing an aspect of that into my life. It's not something that I've particularly stuck to on the meditation practice, but I wake up every day, and I'm very, very fortunate that I live so close to the beach, and I take my dog for a walk down there early. I'm down at the beach at about 5 a.m. and it's funny. I go down there and I talk to the universe. I talk to God, and like that. Even that was a very weird thing for me when I started doing that a number of years ago. And even weirder was I would go down there and I would think these thoughts, and I just in my mind, and I would go down and just practice gratitude and all the things that I was grateful for and all the things that I was hoping to see out of the day. And I would never verbalize it. And it was very difficult for me to do that. And then I started slowly saying that out loud. So I go down, and you got to realize, like, there's nobody down at the beach at that time. It's right now it's winter, it's December, and it's pitch black down there. Nobody can see you. Nobody can hear you. It's windy. It's blustery. But even going down that and speaking out loud, that was a very difficult thing to do. But now I go down there and I'm like, morning world, I'm here. Thank you so much for this opportunity to wake up and be a better version of myself. Thank you so much for my family, my wife, my young daughter, my health, my body. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to work with the people that I do, the clients that we work with. That's how I set up my day, and I verbalize that. I speak that out loud, and that's become a very powerful thing. From there, I head to the gym pretty well every day. Physical fitness and exercise is a huge part of my life. It has been for a lot of years. I started in mixed martial arts about 15 years ago, and up until COVID, it was the biggest part of my life, or one of the biggest parts of my life. And since having a kid, I've sort of backed off of that a little bit just because of time. But physical, there's no better solution for feeding your mind as there is training your body physically. I mean, eating right and eating healthy for sure plays a massive part of that, but exhaust the body to tame the mind. And
Absolutely.
and that's been a huge part. So from there, it's spirituality, physical fitness, and off to work. But those are two key areas that I've been spending a lot of time focusing on that have really helped me grow my mental strength and mental capacity.
Yeah, super important. And yeah, I like that routine. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. So just quick answers. We can
Yeah.
shoot through these. Top book recommendation for entrepreneurs.
Well, currently I have to give a shout out to Dan Martell and Buy Back Your Time. But Think and Go Rich
Awesome.
would be the book that I would recommend that everybody read
Yeah, both.
and
both
study,
great.
not just read, but study at length and reread it every single year.
Nice. If you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Bruce Lee, because he was a big idol of mine, and growing up, and I looked up to a lot of what he did, and his philosophy. I've certainly encompassed a lot of throughout my years, and so Bruce Lee, hands down.
Love Bruce Lee. Be like water, my friend.
That's right.
Good. Yeah. If you could wave a magic wand, be free of any habit, what would it be?
Be free of any habit. Procrastination,
Yeah,
overthinking.
yeah, both common answers to that question. So
Okay, good to
yeah,
know.
I think yeah, a lot of business owners. That's something we contend with. What's your favorite or your most used app on your phone?
Favorite most used app on my phone. Social media, I would have to say Instagram. Otherwise, it's the notes on my phone. That's where I spend most of my time. I have my phone with me all the time. Very rarely do I have a pen and a piece of paper, but if I'm out running or I'm at the gym and I need to jot something down, just that notes pad on my phone is massive. I go through it every once in a while. I was looking at like some of these goals from 2018 that I have on my phone right now and reading through that. It's pretty funny.
Nice. Awesome. And how do you unwind after a long day?
I go home and I spend time with my daughter. That's about it. I go home, leave the office here at around 5:30, and I have a 3-year-old daughter, so there's not a lot of time for me to unwind. So my unwinding happens, to be honest, during those early mornings on the beach, before I even get started.
Great. Awesome. Well, Brendan, where can people connect with you? And if they want to find out more.
Totally on the socials at New Vision Projects, or at Build with B Smith is the new Instagram profile that I've recently launched. We launching a podcast called The Open Concept, which will be out next week, episode 1. I hope everybody can follow along and follow that journey as well.
That's great. I like that. I like that name, The Open Concept. And we'll update the show notes and we'll have a link. We'll have a link to that so everyone can find that.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, Brandon. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate you, Nick. Take care, man.
Yeah, we'll
All
be
right.
in touch till next time.
You got it. Cheers.
Thanks.